Greetings! Today I got for you a review of one nice camera from my collection. The name for it is Plaubel Makina I. This exact model was produced from 1912 up to 1930, and after 1930 it still was produced under the same name but with a bit of a different construction. It had a different shutter mechanism. It had a compa shutter with a dial not to the left of the lens but around the lens, and in my opinion it became better with that edition, but I think this one is a bit cooler just because of its historical value. This exact camera I'm holding right now I think was produced in 1910s somewhere closer to 1916 by all the markings I've looked at in that camera, but I'm not exactly sure, so to be safe I just named it a 100-year-old camera, because in any direction you go, like closer to 1920s or 1910s, it's somewhere around 100. I'll be frank, it's not my favorite camera by any means. I don't like to shoot with it. The process of shooting it actually physically hurts me sometimes, but with all that, like, I'll go to all the other negatives later, but with all these negatives it is still an interesting camera. It has many things in it which are reminiscent of the time it was produced, and well, if I didn't have it I wouldn't just be familiar with these things. So overall, even though it's not my favorite, it's still the camera I like. And I think it's a great contender for the camera for the first review on my channel, because it's not, you know, uninteresting. It's not like I don't have anything to say about it. I have, in fact, very much to say about it. And at the same time, it's not the camera I like so much that it will be a bum if I made a video of this camera it was bad. So I wouldn't regret making this video and spoiling the camera. Okay, now I think it only makes sense if, for starters, I will do a general overview of the camera, like what is it, what type of camera it is, and how it functions. So it is a sort of standard press camera. Cameras of this kind were used for many kinds of newspapers, and well, if you want to take a picture for an article, you would probably use something like that. It opens easily. You just take it and pull on it, and it opens its bellows. And well, fortunately for me, the bellows are intact on that camera. It just clicks in. You gotta help it sometimes because it wouldn't click in automatically when you just pull on it. And it clicks in these little metal sliders right there and there, which I use to focus on the, well, film. It has many of the sliders. It has one for aperture of the same kind, but I'll go over it later. So it obviously has some viewfinders of many kinds, you know, whatever you pick, whatever you like, you use. Like this, that's kind of a folded out condition of that camera. It has some places for screws for a tripod, obviously, for the portrait and for the landscape view and the portrait view. As you may see, pretty standard. Today the ones used are exactly the same, so I can buy a modern tripod and use it with it, although I don't do that. I bought myself a 1930s size tripod, which I use happily. So it closes the same as it opens, you know, easily. You just gotta push these buttons and make sure that these two little viewfinders are up, because if they're down they'll catch on the whole body of the camera and they'll scratch it. You don't want that. So you push the buttons, you fold them up, and you just push it. Sometimes it takes some force to do that, and it's kind of scary to do so because it will do it instantly after it passes a certain threshold. Here we go. So yeah, you're pushing it, it closes without a click, unfortunately, but I mean, I can deal with that. So then you close all that, and you got yourself a closed camera. It has got, I think I'll go into details on some things you can fiddle with later. Right now I'll just say that it doesn't have a fixed focus. You can interchange the focus. It's all good. It has a wide range of distances you can shoot at. The aperture is also kind of widespread, and there are in fact a lot of shutter speeds, so you have that as well. If you compare it to some other budget cameras I own and some other budget cameras in general of that time, you'll see that this camera is actually, I mean, for its time, pretty good. This one came with Plaubel Makina I filter for the lens. It's interesting because, I mean, it's definitely Plaubel, it's definitely made of the same material, at least of the same kind of brass, and it's coated with the same paint, so it fits like a glove. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's pretty nice, you know, it's clear, it's yellow. What else should it have, you know? I love the name. Like, at first I used the magnifying glass to get the middle because the paint chipped and it kind of became difficult to understand, but yeah, it's definitely Middle, which is a funny name. So let's talk about this particular camera. It was beaten a bit. The paint is scraped off on the edges and showing brass metal underneath. Fortunately, it's not steel, so it doesn't rust and flake off. The paint rubbed off of it does not kind of take from its structural integrity. It's still as sturdy as it was back then in 1920s. And yeah, some other damage on this camera may include the cover on the leather on the strap kind of flaking off, as it usually does on these cameras. I believe all of the cameras that have this strap right there, well, the same strap right there, not this particular strap, they have the same kind of damage, because the cover of it kind of dries up, so it shrivels and begins to crack and then peels off because the glue wasn't like all that good, at least like for 100 years, you know. It's difficult to expect it to, you know, last that long, so I don't think they did. And other than that, there is one more damage that I can see on that camera, besides all the cover or the leather cover of the camera body. See there, let me show you, sorry for the glare. These places where the viewfinder kind of claps in, right? If you try to fold it in that way, it'll scrape these two places. So these formed over years when people who kind of, you know, did it improperly, they first closed these two things and tried to close it, and it scraped, and then, you know, it showed all the, well, I don't know what material this is. I mean, it must be leather, you know, just paint scraped off of it, but might as well be something else. And yeah, so this is the kind of damage you do expect on these cameras. In proper use, well, proper use, but, you know, general degradation of the paint. Some other things noticeable here I want to mention, the one I mentioned before but kind of stopped, is, let me just fold it up a bit, right there, and right there is the ground glass. It's in a well enough condition to be useful, because it's obviously still useful, I can't shoot with it, but it is chipped a bit, and chipped in a way that any glass would. Here is the thing. See these shiny places? It's where the insides of the glass are showing, because outside is ground, obviously, so you can see the picture coming through the lens and focusing on it, but the edges, probably from like regular blunt damage, became chipped, and nobody cares about the edges. Nobody. They don't affect anything. You can still see the picture, and I'm using the film for these cartridges that's a bit too thin, so I don't, you know, use that real estate of the frame anyway. Oh, yeah, and you may have seen this little, you know, piece hanging, because it had a bolt. It doesn't have a bolt anymore. I got it without a bolt, but it's obviously intended to be there. and maybe someday I'll find a similar size and I'll just screw it in. I could improvise something else, you know, without finding a bolt. I've got there a needle from a Panasonic from like 30s, and it coincidentally perfectly fits inside that hole, but I think it will be less work to just find a bolt. Aside from that, there are no damages to the camera. Of course, there's a standard slowing of the slower shutter speeds. They're sticky, because the goo that once been a lubricant for the shutter is now a bit viscous. It doesn't let the shutter to close up properly in certain shutter speeds. But same as the ground glass, nobody cares about those long shutter speeds. You could technically fix it, you know, with the basic CLA, you know, cleaning. Basic cleaning will solve the issue. They will work perfectly as intended, but it's like 1/10 of a second, 1/5 of a second, like 1/2 of a second. I don't use these shutter speeds. Nobody else, as far as I know, does. Like, all I need is from 25 and up. Well, coincidentally, that's where the camera works. 25 and up, and I think that's a great segue to the properties of the camera in general, of that model. This is Plaubel Makina I. Contrary to the name, it's not the first camera in the model chain. You know, there was Plaubel Makina I, 2 to A, 3, and so on, you know, later after World War II. But before the 1, 2, and 3 was baby camera. It was obviously, you know, smaller than this one. It was actually, I think it was somewhere like this. You know, you imagine it without like this, yeah? What you see was probably the thing. Because it was of a format 6 by 4.5, I believe, and it was called a baby because baby is kind of a standard name for cameras of smaller formats in that time. In 30s there was Zeiss, a Zeiss baby box Tango. It's a camera for 127 format film. It's like this. As if I'll show you. This is 120. You know, standard middle format. Shoots like 9 by 6 or 6 by 6 or 4 by 6 photos, but 126 was a bit smaller. It was like this, yeah, like this is the size of it, and it's more comparable to small format now, to like 135. And this one, this first model, which it came, well, after baby in 1912, shoots on glass panels, not film, glass panels, because I'll explain why shortly. The glass panels are intended to be the size 9 by 6.5, and unfortunately the middle format I showed you before, the 120, it is 6 centimeters wide, so it doesn't quite fit the frame. It doesn't fill it out. There will be some gaps to the top and to the left, and well, depending on how you cut it, there will be also gaps on the left and on the right, because you do it in the dark. Do not, you know, expose the film. Talked about the format, let's talk about the shutter speeds I promised to talk about. It has some, they range from 25 all the way to 200, which is nice. So, on the topic of setting the shutter speed, we do have two dials. We have one for setting any automatic shutter speeds, like, well, as I said, from 1 second up to 200, 1/200th of a second, right? And if you want something to, you know, hold the lens open, you gotta use either time or bulb setting, and you will use the dial on the top, so you have the interchangeable one. I mean, the E, I don't think it stands for interchangeable, but let's let's just go with that for a moment. And yeah, after E, there goes the bulb. You switch to that, and then when you do switch, the trigger that you gotta pull to wind it up, it doesn't pull anymore because you ain't gonna wind it up to use a bulb or a time speed. For that, you just press the lever, and well, that was bulb, right? So you press it once, it opens, and you unpress it, it closes. I don't think you can see it very well with this light filter on, so let me take it off real quick, so you will see, well, basically how well it works. So see, opens and closes. I mean, you can do it slowly. As you see, the leaf shutter opens and closes. Same can be said for T. Pressed once, quickly opens. Pressed once again, closes. Plain and simple. There is on the top the socket for cable release, so if you don't want to shake the camera very much, or if you want to, you know, if you have a long cable, you want to take a picture yourself, or I don't know, to for some reason take a picture from far away from the camera, you can just screw it in there, and it will push the lever for you. It'll just stick the needle in there and push the lever, and it will work. I would demonstrate it for you, but I unfortunately don't have a cable release on hand. Well, rather, I do have it, but I don't think I will be able to find it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, these three, I don't like it. It's not as comfortable as it could be. If they all were on the same dial, I think it would be easier to set the shutter speed you want. But that's, again, as I already said, how things were. I cannot change it. It shouldn't be changed. It's just how things were. And anyway, after 10 years that this thing was released, they did change it, and the change was for the better. The rim dial already had the bulb and the time in the same set of shutter speeds as all the other ones, which is great. And while we are on the topic of shutter, I think it's just the right time to show you that the lens and the whole mechanism with the lens is interchangeable. It's actually interesting how many iterations did Makina I have, because besides the shutter being changed from a dial set to the rim set, right, it also did change from non-interchangeable lens to interchangeable lens. So before some year, I don't know exactly what year, because I never found the information on it. I digged through any data I could find. I digged through any advertisements there were about this exact camera, and I couldn't find it. But yeah, it wasn't interchangeable, so you couldn't screw it out. Now with this one, you can actually screw it out. Let me show you. It's a bit difficult, but once you started moving, it's quite alright. I'll be gentle with it because I don't want anything to fall out the place. So yeah, you can change the lens, so you can clean the insides, because sometimes they get fungus inside the whole lens system, you know, between two lenses. And if it's not interchangeable, you can't really do anything about it, unfortunately. So yeah, here you go, the lens. So you see my eye inside of it. Pretty cool, I say, pretty cool. But yeah, the whole mechanism, it is actually not accessible through the front. You gotta do it through the back. So yeah, you gotta change it the other way. So that's only the way to change the lens, which is, you know, useful in its own way. Before the interchangeable one, it was actually a bit smaller than this. So the first model of Makina I was the very first model of Makina I was one with the smaller aperture. Like the maximum aperture was something like 3 point something. By the way, also not standard. So both 2.5 and 3 point something that was there are not here today. Actually, with the different lens, there was different type of viewfinder. Well, they could be mounted to the same type, but main difference was it was mounted in the front. This one is offset to the right, as you may see. So yeah, before it was in the front. I don't know why they changed it. I think there was some reason for it. I believe it's to add the sports finder, because right now the sports finder has this middle knob, which I don't like very much. Yeah. And also it had many different interchangeable ones. They had the ones which weren't a rectangle with a little blue glass circle in it. It was just, you know, a knob similar to that one, but it was a bit larger and with, again, blue glass. Which, the blue glass, by the way, is actually lens, the same as this one. So if you fold this one down and you try to look at it, you won't be able to focus on anything. You see, it'll be on all blurry. So the second lens is necessary for the whole experience of viewing things through it. Okay, then, let's talk about other things you can fiddle with in that camera. For starters, aperture. This little slider right there slides smoothly, and I like the way it's built. It's like scales. It's like a I don't even know how to describe it, like multiple overlapping pieces of metal which produce that sliding motion. If you can see, I think you can. Let me make it so it doesn't, so it focused but doesn't. Okay, let's see. You see these little things? How it's sliding? It's pretty cool. So yeah, it's smooth. It's pretty smooth. I like it. That's one of the things I like about this camera. Now let's go to the negatives. The apertures I mentioned are not standard at all. Well, at least to our time. Because back in 1920s, when this camera was going around, and well, let's more likely say in like 1910s, when this camera was produced, or early 1910s, this like aperture grid that we have now, with standard apertures that you like take any light meter, it has all the apertures your camera might have. They didn't have it back then, so every company, like, okay, we gotta produce a camera, we don't have any grids that we gotta follow, no standards, just make anything that works for us. And they did. These ones did it. I mean, they did it, but unfortunately they didn't guess right once, because this one has 2.9, yeah, unstandard. Standard is 2.8 for any curious, and yeah, when I use light meters to shoot with that camera, I always gotta, you know, put a custom value of 2.9, obviously. And of the other ones, there is 12, which is also, as far as I know, not really that common. There is 11, right? But 12, not that common. I think you can still see 12 somewhere. It's not like, you know, 2.9 where it's not appearing anywhere, but still not popular. Same can be said about 18. Usually it stops at like 22, somewhere like that. It goes like 16, like 11, 16, 22. Most of the cameras. Like all the cameras there, they kind of have that grid, but they are later. You know, this was produced and designed, most importantly, in 1910s. Yeah, 1912 to be specific. And these ones up there were starting like 1925 probably. Yeah, 1925. I don't think I have any ones earlier, at least with like this kind of aperture scale. So yeah, uncomfortable part in that. Alright, going next, an aforementioned viewfinders. It has 3 of those, if you count the ground glass as one of them. But I think it's safe to say that ground glass is a viewfinder, because you definitely can look through it and find a frame you're looking for, you know, find a picture. But I'll talk in detail about these ones. The other 2, one is more comfortable, one is less comfortable. I'll talk about the more comfortable one later. So the less comfortable is the sports finder. well, given it is a sports finder, it's not meant to take accurate pictures. It's meant to put it up quickly, take a picture, snap it, then put it away, like take a cartridge out, put the next in, and take a picture. Because in sports, as the name says, you know, it's a sports finder for sports events. Not always, you know, sometimes it's just for quick things, but yeah, in sports everything is happening quickly. You gotta have a shot ready, and if you're looking in smaller ones or in ground glass even, you wouldn't be able to act fast enough. Yeah, but I don't like the design. There are better designs for sports finder everywhere. Like this little knob is not doing anything. Like you're supposed to look through a little pinhole on a knob, and you can't. Like you gotta put it way too close to your eye. And if you have glasses, you just forget about this thing because you can't put it close enough to your eye to shoot because you have glasses that are preventing you from doing that. And I mean, I guess fuck glass people, you damn foreigners. But yeah, it's not comfortable at all. The ones with like a little frame there instead of a knob, these are great. I love those. You kind of align the frame, the little frame with the big frame. It's doing a shot. I have a photocore camera up there, and it has it. I used it. It's pretty nice. I love it. Yeah. This one though, kind of not good. Given that kind of pinhole is a standard for the viewfinders of that time, it was a staple. Every single press camera that you could find back in 1910s, 1920s had it. But it's still like uncomfortable. It doesn't take away from it. Besides, it has this one. This one's cool, and it's kind of cute. You know, a little hole there, big hole there, but it's smaller, but it's way better. This one in the front is a magnifying glass, so it distorts the picture you see there to fill the frame, you know? It kind of makes it smaller for your eye, so you end up with a picture that's in size of the frame. Great. The back plate has a little hole with glass in it, and glass in it is not usual, it's blue glass. At first I thought that blue in the glass was just some, you know, byproduct of glass being produced with some weird salts or weird materials, the same way that, you know, thorium glass is getting yellower over time. You ever seen like thorium lenses? You look at them and they're like yellow. Not as yellow as like, you know, this filter, but pretty damn yellow, yeah? But this is not the case. I mean, first of all, I don't really think there are any additives to glass, at least you know, traditional old ones that will turn blue, and other than that, it might be for the sun, right? You're looking through it, you're trying to look at the sunny picture, you see a bright light before you, and so you don't lose the view if you don't have, you know, so you can shoot comfortably. It has bluish tint, which is the same as the blue tint on glasses of actually the same models I have. It's these are coincidentally from around the same time as the camera, from 1916, and sometimes these glasses are sunglasses, and sunglasses of this kind are bluish in tone. So that must mean that blue kind of helps with the sun. I'm no, you know, eyesight specialist. I don't know how blue affects the eye, but I mean, it must do so because people produce it that way. But yeah, pretty nice. And if I do say so myself, the blue tone is kind of pleasant to the eye if you're looking at it. Other than that, the forward in the front plane, the viewfinder there, the lens has crosshair, which is pretty useful. I don't know why they don't have these anymore. Like, okay, there are crosshairs in like ground glasses in flex cameras, you know, the ones with top opening, like Icoflex or Mamiya cameras, right? Or Hasselblad even, you know, the bulky ones. They have ground glass with a grid on them. This one, however, is the only one I know, well, the, you know, later models which produced well into 1930s that have a crosshair, and they dropped it somewhere in like 1910s. If you see any camera from 1910s, from that era, they do all have these crosshairs. They just dropped it somewhere. Yeah, at some point they dropped them. There probably was a reason for it. I'm not aware of it, and I like them. They are aesthetic as they're useful, because I can find the center of the shot. Okay, now let's talk about the way you focus with that bad boy. And I ain't talking about the way you focus with it now, because it's probably somewhat different. Scratch that, it's definitely somewhat different from the way you would focus it back in the day. So let's imagine, you know, for clarity, that I am a German guy who just bought the camera in 1912, it's a brand new thing, I'm trying to shoot it. How do I focus? Well, the first thing I notice is it has a little grid in there, a little scale, and as you may see, well, not yet, but soon, let's put the light away. Yeah, you see numbers. The numbers are from like 2 to infinity, and you just turn the knob, right? Turn this little knob, and the scale, it moves, yeah? The slider moves along the scale, and you can set any distance you want. Well, from these numbers, from 1.5 actually to infinity, and you can definitely use that only, that alone. I think you would get pictures good enough if you're shooting something far away, because there's depth of field, you can account for that, and it's not likely that you'll miss something. But if you're shooting something closer, like, you know, 1.5 meters, you're trying to be risque, you're trying to shoot something close, and the field of view is probably a couple of centimeters at that point, especially if you're shooting with a wide aperture, and then you really want to use the ground glass. The ground glass there is not the brightest one. Like, I'll get it out of the way. It's not the best ground glass I've ever used. In fact, it might be one of the worst ones I've ever used. It's utter shite, I'm telling you. So let me just open it for you. You see what happens? It doesn't open. I mean, it does, only if I pry it up with my fingers. So if I'm trying to find something or set the focus there, I have to pry it open with my fingers all the way, yeah, while trying to do something with one hand, like to just, you know, do the focusing or to set something. Or usually it's just the focusing, because I'll do anything else later or before that. But yeah, focusing you gotta do while you're looking at it, obviously, because you want to find the focus on the ground glass. You want to set the focus on the ground glass here, and I mean, it's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. If it's like on a tripod, it's not that bad, but at the same time, if you're on a tripod, it can slip, so you still gotta hold it on. You still gotta hold it. There's nothing like you set it up, you just, you know, do the fingers, you just lightly spin it. No, it's gonna slide around, you wanna hold it, and you can't do that with one hand. At least in a way that, you know, good for you. It's uncomfortable. There are many solutions to that problem, and some of these solutions came like in the lifetime of that camera. Of course, it was produced, well, it was designed in 1912. So in 1912, I don't believe there was this technology yet, but I can't bring myself to call it a technology, like, seriously, because what I'm talking about is a piece of hard fabric or cardboard that will pry these open, and which attaches itself to the base of the glass, well, not the glass, but the whole construction, yeah, to the base of it, exactly the same way that this hood is being attached. On photocore, for example, there's a little piece of fabric inside the hood, which I'll use this little case for my filter, because it coincidentally is just right size to put it in the place of the little fabric piece on the photocore, the same way it's attached there. And as you may see, you know, it's kind of, you know, folded in, all the way when you are closing it. So you like gonna close it, it's folded in, it's like inside, it's tucked in, it's all dandy. And when you open it, you just, you know, take that flap, you open the flap, and it's prying these open. This little flap, it's prying it open. Sometimes there are two flaps in both sides, which are making it so you don't hold it and it's staying open. Well, of course, this little thing, it's kind of obstructing the view because it's not meant for that. But if it's attached to that, it's, you know, slick if it's tiny, yeah, if it's thin. You just have a little piece of fabric that sits closely to the side, which you don't notice, and it gives you like the good frame, the full frame. You can see myself in there, the screen. I'm looking at OBS to like see the camera to what I'm showing to you. Okay, so it's comfortable. It's how it should be done. It's not done there that way. And some said already, and some may say that, oh man, what if it was there? What if it was like not their fault, mate? What if it's just, you know, fallen from it, just tore out of it with time? Somebody used it too much and like it fell off. No, it didn't. I examined this thing. I was like, oh well, that's a valid point. What if it was there before? What was there originally by the design? But it wasn't. Let me take that off for more comfortable showcase. There is no indication of something being inside before that isn't now. It was always like this. It was always shit. Unlucky. So yeah, that's a big uncomfortability, if that's a word. I think it's a word. But yeah, like I can deal with a dim glass, you know, it's not bright, whatever, I don't care. I can still like find the focus. But it doesn't hold itself up. I can't find the focus on the dim glass while I'm trying to pry open some fucking flaps. It's outrageous. I don't like it. Ah, goddamn it. I think it's time to talk about other bad things about it, because there are bad things about the focus system. Now we're going to present day, back from that 1912 German guy who's about to become a bad boy in World War II. Well, first World War I, but then World War II, if it lives long enough. That was an unreasonable segue, I don't know why I said that. But yeah, let's talk about today. You use the ground glass, yeah, you find the focus, you try to shoot with it, and what do you see? You don't have a focus. You shot on film, you know, you put the film in the cartridge, and the good old cartridge, which I'll show to you later. It's kind of an interesting little thing, but yeah, you just open the cartridge, put the film in, put it inside the camera, you try to shoot with it, you focus on the ground glass, and you get an unfocused picture the way out. Why? Well, that's because the front plane moves so slightly when you're focusing that even a millimeter of thickness can change it. And where does that millimeter difference come from? Glad you ask. Glass. Back in the days, you would take pictures not on slick film, but on glass plates covered with emulsion of sorts, like photochemistry. You just spread it like on a toast, if you're doing it yourself or you just buy them from a dealer, and it's glass. The place, like the emulsion, is kinda pushed forward because of thickness of glass. The back plane and the front plane on the same plane are not. But on the film it's virtually the same, you know, it's so thin you may as well say that, you know, the back and forward plane are in the same place. So when you don't shoot with glass, because you can't buy glass today, it's uncomfortable, it's, you know, you can't really use it well, you can only buy film. And if you use film, you lose that millimeter of thickness, and when you do lose that millimeter of thickness, well, rather gain the millimeter of thickness, because you are counting from the front to back, yeah? So, like this, it's the thickness, yeah? And if you put it away, it's like plus millimeter of thickness. So you gotta account for that when you're shooting. So you gotta not only find the focus with cracked glass, you gotta then adjust it. To adjust for the added depth, you gotta slide it a bit towards yourself. You gotta slide the focus bit towards yourself, and then shoot. And that's like entirely experimental. You can't know what distance you gotta do it. You just gotta guess and guess again, and then formulate the formula for it. Like, how much do I usually have to slide it? I need a glass of water, goddammit. Alright, one glass of water later, and I think I'm ready to finish this thing off by mentioning some things I failed to mention previously. So, well, let me show you first of all the cartridge for that thing. It is a simple one, it's pretty standard. Nowadays, the full large format cameras do use the same type of cartridges in them, although a tad larger if we're talking about like 9 by 12 centimeter or like 18 by 13. So yeah, the way I put the film there is just sticking it into it using a double-sided tape. It is barbaric way to do this, but I have no other choice because it is thinner than usual film that is intended to go there. It's 6 centimeters wide, right? So if I put it in there, it will just simply fall off the second I remove the shield while I'm taking a picture. It will just fall inside the camera and I wouldn't be able to take it out without obviously showing light on it. Some downsides of doing that is obviously you have to pry it off when you try to develop it, and when you do so, the film will get some physical damage, which will show on the final scan. Obviously, I'll show you the picture right there. That's how it looks, and well, so far I've been only experimenting with that camera. I haven't been taking professional pictures with it, the ones I want to look perfect. So I did take the risk and I accepted that it will be that way up until I come up with something better. Something interesting actually is that velvet on most of these is still intact, and most of these I say because a couple of them don't have velvet in them and they rusted all the way. I can actually show you one that was rusted a lot, but it does have the velvet thing on still. I wouldn't be able to show you right now the one without it because I just stored them away and trying to not fiddle them anymore. So yeah, here you see the rust. It's really rough, so I cannot use it properly. It will catch on the corpus on the body of the camera while I'm trying to slide it in and slide it out, and I'll probably scratch it, damage it. It's not something I like, so I'm currently using it as a display right near it to show like that's the cartridge I'm using. You can write something right there. It's a piece of paper and it actually had something written on it, but it was written in Russian, so that's why I know it was written after the first runtime of the camera. So the first owner it's like didn't have it anymore, and the second owner or like third, so not the first owner wrote it. That I know for sure. But this two on there, that's actually the only one I have with the number intact, because obviously when you're shooting these things they look identical when I am brand new, at least. Right now I can differentiate between them by the rust patterns, which is actually funny a little bit, but yeah, when it didn't have rust patterns when I was brand new, it had numbers on it which you could just simply remember. So like I showed third and fourth film I had, like the other ones are still intact. That is all about the cartridges, I believe. And besides the cartridges, I don't think I have anything else to show you about this camera. I think that was about it. Well, I can just show you how it slides out and in, but you already seen it when I was doing it, not mentioning it. So yeah, just unlock this little thing, you just push it up, there's a little lock right there, you see, tactile thing. It has some things etched into it, and yeah, you take it out, you slide it out. It's pretty easy. It also has light seals on there, 2 of them. They are mostly intact, but there are some damages which don't really affect the film at all. I thought they would, because if you close it up, you will see that it looks like it's gonna shine through, that the light is passing, but well, turns out it doesn't. So yeah, you just take it out, take the thing, take the cartridge. You want it to be this. So yeah, you put it in, you slide it in the place of ground glass. When you're ready to take a picture, you are not supposed to lock it in, because you would not be able to. You just slide it in and try not to move it very much, and then you just take these shields off. Just slide it out all the way. I didn't slide it all the way right now because I don't want to find the right hole again. And then you take the picture. Obviously, you like push the lever, take the picture, and then you slide it back in, covering the film, and you are ready to take it back out. And the film is in there and it's ready to be developed. That's the whole process of shooting this little wonderful camera. Now that is all. So thank you for watching. I hoped it wasn't as boring as it could have been, because I do imagine that me talking 30 minutes about some weird camera is not the most interesting thing in the world, but yeah, it's my passion. I like them very much. There will be more to come. There will be more cameras. I will review the 10 other ones I have right now on me in my collection, and then when I go through all of them, I will definitely get my hands on some more cameras, some more unique cameras, because I usually try to get them with different structures. So like this is a press camera, a regular press camera with the front going from the like back side of it, but there are also flip cameras, there are vest cameras, many different cameras. I'll show you all of them, but so with time, because editing process of these videos is gonna kill me. I don't like editing at all. The filming was fun actually, because I had fun setting this thing up. This is a little blanket of mine. I took it off my couch and I put it between the ironing board and the handle for the window. So it's a good bit of crackhead engineering at game. Wait, you say it differently. At work, yeah, at work. So yeah, I hope the sound is okay. I checked the sound before, because that's the last thing I'm shooting today. And I think I'll overlay some good old music from around the same era as the camera, so I'll try to find something from 1910s to 1930s. And I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed. Again, peace out. Disclaimer: there's some weird thing going on with the date of production of that camera, the day that camera hit the market. Some websites say it is 1912, right? The same as Baby Makina, but some websites say that it is 1920 actually, and in fact 1920 isn't the time for my camera specifically, but the one without the removable lens. And the one with removable lens came out like in somewhere between 1920 and 1930, so in 20s. And with all that uncertain info, I can't really tell you like when it came out. I filmed all of that before I found out that some websites say about like 1920s, about the date coming out like 1920s. So everywhere I'm talking about 1912. And it might not be correct. I'm not sure. I tried to figure it out. I tried to find a credible source, but it seems like I can get more credible than Wikipedia, and even there some dates don't match up. So yeah, the dating on that camera is mysterious, and the whole camera is mysterious. I couldn't find very much info on it, even in some newspapers cutouts from like the time from 1910s, 1920s, and yeah, I wanted to clarify that going into the video or after. I don't know where I'll put the disclaimer. I think I'll do it after all of this, so it doesn't disrupt the whole video. If you were the one interested, I clarified it for you. If you weren't, well, you just didn't see it and you didn't care. So yeah, peace out again.